Kari Lake, the prominent MAGA cultist and self-proclaimed governor of Arizona, even though she lost the election according to, I don't know, the people of Arizona and most people in reality, went on the Real America's Voice network to make the case against impeaching President Joe Biden, because she says in order for him to be impeached, he would have to be the legitimate president. And she says he's not. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. So, Kari Lake, listen, in terms of ranking the craziest of the MAGA cultists, of the High Council of MAGA, as I've talked about, she has a good claim to being like the most supreme fanatic in that entire cult, right? And given the competition, that's a pretty formidable claim. But she's made an interesting case on the Real America's Voice network. She's like, listen, don't impeach Joe Biden. He has to be the legitimate president to do that. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to let her take it from here. It's a lot of crazy packed in 35 seconds, so brace yourselves.
This is a guy who's already won. He won in 2016. He won even bigger in 2020. All that January 6th.
Donald Trump is such a winner. Yeah, he won in 2016, got to be in the White House for 4 years, but then he won even bigger in 2020. Let me tell you how much he won in 2020. He won so much in 2020 that he had to leave the White House, and he isn't in the White House, and he doesn't get Air Force One, and somebody else is living in the White House and calling himself president. Everybody else is calling him president, and also the Republican majority in the Senate is no longer the Republican majority in the Senate. And then we didn't get it back in 2022. He's such a winner, we didn't reclaim the Senate in 2022, and we barely squeaked by in the House, and mostly because the candidates he picked lost their elections. But that's how big of a winner Donald Trump is. Okay, Kari.
Was a staged riot to cover up the fact that they certified a fraudulent election. And I agree with a lot of what Cash said about impeachment. If we just go back and deal with this fraudulent election and what happened in 2020, we don't have to impeach him because he really isn't, in my opinion, and many others, and you look at the evidence, the true president. We just can, why don't we decertify 2020? And that's the way we deal with it.
So Kari Lake made an interesting case there. She's like, listen, don't impeach Joe Biden. Basically what she's saying is to impeach President Biden would be actually to legitimize him. So MAGA congresspeople, Republican congresspeople, listen, if you move to impeach Joe Biden, in effect, you are tacitly conceding that he won the 2020 election fair and square, that he is the duly elected, legitimate president of the United States. And MAGA can't have that. So they shouldn't impeach him, Kari Lake says. You should try to decertify the 2020 election. I don't even know what that would look like since we're nearly 3 years in and Joe Biden is in the White House and he is flying on Air Force One and he has the nuclear launch codes and all of the presidency stuff. So I don't know how they would even go about that. Never mind the fact that the election, the 2020 election, has been litigated to hell and back. More than 60 court cases in front of very often conservative judges, very often Trump-appointed conservative judges, and defeat after defeat after defeat for Donald Trump. Multiple audits, multiple recounts, all of which overwhelmingly increased Joe Biden's victory, right? They came back and said, actually, we found more votes. Some of these that were miscounted for Trump, they should have gone to Biden. So, I mean, just egg on your face every which way. But Kari Lake makes an interesting case, and hopefully it will be persuasive to the rest of the Republican base and MAGA. They shouldn't try to impeach Joe Biden. You know what, guys? MAGA, if you're watching, Kari Lake's right, isn't she? Kari Lake makes an interesting point. If you try to impeach President Biden, aren't you in effect legitimizing him? Aren't you tacitly conceding that he is, in fact, the president, your president, the commander-in-chief, the most powerful man in the world? And given how Donald Trump values strength, do you really want to call Joe Biden the most powerful man in the world? Because by definition, you would be saying he's more powerful, he's stronger, he's more masculine and powerful, formidable than Donald Trump. Kari makes an interesting case here, and I think she should try to sell it to the rest of MAGA, and who knows, maybe it will spread through the ranks, and this sort of weird psychology effect will actually work on the Freedom Caucus. Maybe Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't part of the Freedom Caucus anymore, so maybe Lauren Boebert and all the others may be like, yeah, we can't impeach Joe Biden. We want to withdraw articles of impeachment. We oppose impeaching Joe Biden because if we do it, then that's acknowledgement that Joe Biden is the legitimate president and therefore qualifies for impeachment since that's the only way to get rid of him. So anyway, interesting case, Kari.